The only way I thought I can get passive income is by investing in a rental property and then paying it off. And then that money I thought is a passive income. I thought that is the only way.
What you've done is really amazing, is kind of bringing people who are like-minded and who want to invest into this thing, together. Again, this is not for everybody. And if it is not for you, it's okay.
For the professionals, when I say professionals, doctors, engineers, see to achieve passive income potential for the wealth that they're already sitting on. But what is difficult is multiplying the money and the wealth that you have. For that, you need lot more of an experience on not only what the private equity opportunities that there are, and also other syndicated opportunities that your wealth can take you further along. Doctors, engineers, lawyers, practicing professionals, how do they see passive income? One of the big mistakes that I made when I started in getting into real estate. My big goal when I used to work at Intel was just to replace the income that I had at Intel, and that was my goal. That's it. Just replace the income that I'm making working at Intel. And let me tell you, it was one of the easiest things to replace your current income. So excited today to have my friend and also somebody that I look up to when it comes to doing massive investments to gain a lot of passive income.
Thank you so much, Kiran. You're too kind, man. So I'm a physician, guys, in Virginia over here. I still practice medicine. I got started in real estate a few years ago, and basically kind of wanted to scale up because obviously, we make good money as physicians, but I was initially dabbling with the smaller real estate, and I realized that there's a lot of work that needs to go into this and for not a whole lot of gain. And so you really need to scale your portfolio to a certain level before you actually start reaping the benefits. So I figured, 10x is easier than 2x. So I wanted to go into the larger private equity space, and that's where I stepped in and kind of have been looking at a lot of fun things, a lot of fun opportunities that I'm getting involved in.
Let's run through this. You are a physician by education and you are a practicing doctor. What is your mindset and how is it so different from other doctors and clients that I've been to? How do you think about real estate and the opportunities and private equity? So lead me through your mindset as to what makes you go.
So, obviously, when I started out, that was the same thing that I felt, that I wanted to just replace my income and then chill and relax and enjoy life. So I was like, I'll buy a few properties, have rent coming in, and I'll kind of enjoy it. But so I kind of got into this thing, and I actually ended up building my own house from the ground up. So I was a GC. I got, of course, I had subcontractors and my, construction manager. I was heavily involved in the project. Very stressful, but learned a ton through that process, right? And so it's like once you start that, the challenge is that once you're starting, it's very difficult to get started. But once you get that momentum, you're like, okay, let's keep going. Let's see where we can go. And what happens is that you don't realize how far you've come. And when you look back, you're like, how did I get here? Right. And so if I look back now and the amount of effort, the amount of hours that I put into all of this, had I known that I would have had to put all of this out, these many hours into this, I don't know if I would have done that. Right. And so it's not knowing what lies 10 steps ahead. It's about knowing what's the next step and is taking that next step. And, for me, the first step was a change in my mindset, right? Naturally, when we're talking, and if this is like generally this happens to us, is we all sort of operate from a scarcity mindset. Like there's only a small proportion of things, and we all got to grab whatever's available, right? The only thing that's limited in this world is time. Everything else you can multiply, even time you can multiply by getting bigger teams, getting other people, leveraging other people's time, right? So once you understand that concept and really internalize that concept, that's when you can actually scale and you understand that you can look at bigger things. And I think a lot of times what happens is that people get scared by the big things. I was me earlier. I did not want to get into big stuff. But then I realized, like, what's the worst that's going to happen? I'm going to fail, right? And I think a lot of times people are fearful of failures, but then that's where you actually grow and that's where you learn from.
So it's interesting you talked about building your own home. Even though it might sound very simple, a lot of people are okay to outsource that particular opportunity of learning to a general contractor, or they don't get involved in the nitty-gritty of it. One of the biggest signs of how I particularly learn is when I actually start doing it. Even when it comes to my first rental property, I was so involved in understanding the dynamics of it, and that curiosity mindset is what really ignites it. If you just want to be one of those who wants to pay somebody and not get really involved in understanding the logic, because once you understand it, then you can leverage and scale up and grow. First is you have to have a mindset of curiosity, which should be sparked from the bottom of your heart when it comes to trying to analyze multiplying your time, multiplying your wealth, multiplying your knowledge.
Yeah, I think
And
you hit it spot on, because I think curiosity is what is really important. Because I actually want to share something with you that I'm actually reading right now. So, we just talked about real estate, but the knowledge, the learning doesn't stop for me. So by the way, I did not tell you that actually before I started building my house, I actually purchased a book on how construction happens in the US, because the
okay,
construction over here is very different from how it is in India. So literally, I
yeah,
bought a book on that to go through that, to understand how it, what actually the steps, what's the science behind this, what's the logic behind it, to have some understanding. Now I'm looking at private equity, venture capital as well alongside real estate. So guess what I have? I have a book. I don't know if you guys can see this, but I have a book
yeah.
to understand this, right? So it's the learning for me never stops. I'm always evolving, always learning, always, always curious to know what's out there.
The only way I thought I can get passive income is by investing in a rental property and then paying it off. And then that money I thought is a passive income. I thought that is the only way. But
No, there's so
after
many ways.
realizing that is not the only way, there are so many ways to do it. I want you to talk about what are some of the different ways that you saw some of the professionals are able to do it. I mean, I know you guys have come together and you've built massive wealth on this.
Yeah, so of course, we start with real estate, right? That's where I started. I have my own rental properties. They cash flow. You pay the mortgage and stuff like that, and that get kind of brings you some passive income. But then there are other opportunities. For example, people do Airbnbs. Although I'm not a huge fan of that market,
I'm
not a
not a
huge fan
fan
of that
either.
product, right? A lot of people are getting into midterm rentals. So a lot of people are getting into co-living. Now, even within real estate, there are flavors, right? You can get into RV parks. You can actually buy boutique hotels. I know people who do that. You can do commercial, which is what you do, right? You have commercial tenants. You can rent out office spaces. Um, you can have medical office spaces. So there are so many varieties of things. I have a friend who's doing mobile home parks. So even within real estate, there's so many flavors, right? Then you get into buying businesses, right? That's where sort of the multiples get higher and higher, because now you're buying a business, and businesses are sold on EBITDA multiples, which are sometimes higher than what you would traditionally get from real estate. And even in real estate, like, you could do ground up development. I've been involved in some projects that are ground up development. In fact, we have a ground up development fund for our local area in the DMV area, that where I am at. To do development. So there are a lot of flavors. And then there's venture capital. Venture capital, I would say, is typically a very, very long hold. So, if somebody's looking at passive investing, they're looking at 3-year, 4-year time horizon, venture capital may not be the best product for them. Again, it varies from deal to deal, but then those are typically, you're looking at 10-year horizon or so, 8-year, 10-year horizon, because it takes that much time for the investment to mature.
Avishkar, let's actually grind it down to the ground level. There is so many opportunities in the passive income arena, and my mind is just blown away with the kind of opportunities that we see on a day-to-day basis, which lot of people who are not really in this market observing the opportunities they might not see. What are the biggest challenges for the professionals? When I say professionals, doctors, engineers see to achieve passive income potential for the wealth that they're already sitting on. Because most of these people are sitting on liquid cash, because we own a mortgage company, we do mortgages. I'm able to see people's portfolios all the time. I see 300, 400, half a million, close to $1 million in cash sitting in their checking or savings account. And they tell me that they've been looking for opportunities for 2, 3 years, and nothing is working out. So what are some of the challenges that you see? I know what the challenges according to me are, but I want to hear your opinion on this.
Yeah, I think, like you said, right, lack of deals that are available to them. So lack of having that network of people who can bring the right deals to them. That's number one. Number two is that a lot of people, will be pitching deals to high net worth individuals, talking about what opportunities. I think the other challenge is, how do you actually vet a deal? How do you understand this is the right deal for you, right? So you can promise the moon, but is that really the case? Like, do they have a rocket to get you to the moon? And then so you got to understand that, and a lot of times that can be very challenging and scary, especially in the private markets, because a confused man will always say no. And so it's just like, yeah, if the deal doesn't make sense to them, or they're not able to understand that, they will just say, we'll just invest in the stock market, right? And so historically, if you look at it, actually, I was looking at a thing. I was actually told by my brother. So my brother does a lot of options trading, and so he was mentioning to me that it doesn't matter. You're doing all of this private equity stuff, and really the returns is not as high as the stock market. And I was like, okay, let's validate this. Let's see what's the truth behind this. So actually, Chicago Booth School of Business, they did apparently a study on this, or they actually had an article I was looking at. And so private markets have actually done better than the stock market in historically. So if you look at the 10-year data, I think they've done better, and I think even the 20-year data, they've done better, right? So so the thing is that they do well. The private markets do well if you know what you're doing, if you have the right people, looking at the capital, being good stewards of your capital. So you need to have the person who's the right person, who knows what they're doing, and they can execute on the business plan.
One of the challenges, Avishkar, I've seen a lot of these doctors and engineers face is they don't know what they're looking for. They are looking for good returns, but they really are unsure how to underwrite a deal. They are unsure of whom to trust, and they are also unsure of whom they can align themselves to. So those are the
Right.
challenges that I see. That's why when I started this passive income real estate investment investors club, the basic goal is to align. Okay, everybody should be aligned on what it is. You can get great returns on some projects, but then there is some risk. Some projects are not as risky, but you'll get a very steady stable returns on it. Like for example, we do private mortgages. In private mortgages, people can just dump their cash and we guarantee them 8%, 10, and then
You're right.
it's very safe because we just put a lien on one of the commercial properties or residential properties, and these investors can enjoy 8%, while the money sitting in their account is not gathering anything. You can park some money there, then you can diversify and do some private equity stuff, then you can diversify and do play some stock, then you can also participate in some syndications. So that's why I think the biggest thing is, when we come together as a group, we want to be able to understand how projects are being underwritten. So I want to hear from you. How do you start the trust building process from the people that you interact with?
I think you're right in a way that they need to understand how the project is underwritten. But again, it's not so I'll give you an analogy. Say you go to a physician, right? Do you really need to know what the physician is going to prescribe or not prescribe, or how they're going to diagnose you? Not necessarily, right? You go there, you trust them with you put your trust in them because they have the expertise and that they've done their work. So I think, yes, it's good to do that, but I think more so it has to be that, what's the team doing? How can I trust this team or not? Right. And so this comes down to a few things, right? Number one is track record, right? A lot of times people will be like, well, do you have a track record? And sometimes what'll happen is the deal may be phenomenal, the team may be good, but they may be a new team that's formed. right? Or the individual presenting the deal may be a new individual. I've faced that problem, right? I've had that people say to me that, hey, you don't have a track record. They've said this to me in the past. You've never done this before. That's very true. I may not have done that in the past, but as a good steward of the money, my responsibility is to partner with somebody who's done this in the past, who can guide me through the process, or who can take. So the thing is, these are all partnerships, right? So they can take a larger share of, because they're actually bringing in, they're taking on that responsibility as I guide, as I learn through it. And that's what we did, right? That's what we're doing right now. And so I think it's more about understanding the team than just the due diligence process. Now, that being said, of course, there are certain things that people should know about the due diligence, right? Okay, just see where the deal is at. Is it in the middle of nowhere, especially for real estate, right? What in your opinion is going to be the market fit for this product? If it's a business, okay, where do you see this business going, right? What does the input and output look like? Is it heavily leveraged or not? Things like that are what kind of, some of the due diligence that you can do. Basically, every business is run by human beings. Some may be run by AI, but whichever are run by humans, you got to make sure that the human team is actually doing what they're supposed to do. Because it might be the best product, it might be the best piece of real estate. If it's run horribly, it's not going to cash flow.
That's a very good point. Uh, what are some of the ways that you think these high net worth individuals have to learn or have to practice, or where can they get the right information that they can trust on? See, one of the reasons I created this platform is for all of us to come, share, and also learn.
Right.
And I want you to share with me your experience coming from a total non-real estate background, from being a doctor to you talk to me about commercial deals, and the way you present yourself talking about commercial deals, it feels like you know a lot already, even though you're not in the
Uh,
field. So you spend a lot of time, but what about the other common man? Okay, common man in the sense these are busy professionals like you. What are some of the ways that they should get up to speed?
I think it's a lot of it is to do with you see a lot of the material they can find online. You don't need to go anywhere else, right? I'm actually hosting a summit. It's called the Med Equity Summit. It's for physicians and other high net worth individuals. It's a free summit. Shameless plug, guys. I was more on the active side. So for me, it was finding the right mentors who are doing actively, who are doing deals actively, and that too. The challenge is, in the private markets, it's harder to find people who are doing things the right way. And so I've been fortunate to find, mentors who've been able to guide me through the process, have helped me, grow in this space. And so it's really finding the people there.
I ran into you at one of the conferences, and that's how you network. You meet people in these conferences wherein you see like-minded people marching towards the same goal. One of the myths that I used to have that really I had to work hard on busting about delegation and outsourcing. Delegation and outsourcing is something like you're actually building a team that's around you who don't directly report to you, but these are the people who help you get the end goal of you reaching your passive income goals. How do you pick and have these people as part of your team?
Yeah, I think a common dictum is hire slow and fire fast. And so when I'm looking at things, there are a lot of ways you can look at, how to hire people, how to partner with people. Some of the things that we do is, we'll do a background check to understand where they're coming from. I'll make sure that, they've been in the business for some time. Things like that, we kind of figure out about them, and then you got to like the person. At the end of the day, you got to talk to them several times, make sure that they're, what they're doing is legit. We'll make sure that your personalities align. And that's how I find, partners. And sometimes what happens is that you partner with somebody, or you want to partner with somebody, it might not be the right time. So you got to wait, you got to nurture that relationship a little longer, a little longer. And I mean, that's what happened with us, right? We started talking, and we talked about a few different projects that we wanted to be involved in, but they were not the right fit. But then we found what could be the right fit, and then we kind of had other, we had other mutual connections that we made through that process. So I think it takes time. Any relationship takes time to nurture and to grow.
I always find my partners where I run into them when they're actually doing a project, actually doing a work. It's in fact exactly the way you find a landscaper. You walk around the community, you see a landscaper working, you see how he works, and then you pick your partner. That's how I do it. Keep it simple, keep it stupid, keep it sweet, and that's how we do it. And then I also encourage you to keep actively participating in this group, the Passive Investment Real Estate Club, wherein we are going to bring in a lot more guests. We'll all plug into Avishkar's conference that is coming in. I'm going to put a link in the description. So
Thank
hopefully
you.
you'll all join.
What you've done is really amazing, is kind of bringing people who are like-minded and who want to invest into this thing together. Again, this is not for everybody, and if it is not for you, it's okay, right? That's what I would say. Don't feel like you're missing out on something. Don't feel like you have to push yourself to do this. It's not going to be. It has to align with your personality, right?
Yeah.
All of the investments have inherent risks. I mean, we saw what happened to the stock market, right? It's very, the challenge with real estate, like syndications, funds, and whatever have you, is that these are typically illiquid investments. So the upside to that illiquidity is that you are potentially going to get a higher return, right? Higher, better than the stock market. So again, you have to understand where you stand as a person. Are you completely risk averse and you only want to do the S&P 500, or are you somebody who is willing to dabble in the private equity space, which can give you risk adjusted returns, right? And so that really is what I would say, is like, understand your personality first before diving in.
That's a great message. When I started in real estate, Avishkar, I was so risk averse. I did not put my money, I didn't trust my money into any real estate projects. Of course, there was an opportunity cost to it. But then as I learned that you have to trust people, you have to be willing to learn about it, and then you have to try it out. So thank you so much. We'll catch up with you again. Looking forward to seeing you.